It is a civil case between two very identifiable, very unique individuals. And as such, there are two ways this has resonated so much with all of us. There's two reasons why we care so much about what she has just been able to do. The first reason it resonates, the first reason we care, honestly, is because of us as a country and who we are and the way he, as a political figure, is trying to change us as a country.
You are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I said I want to be a dictator for one day. Sean, I only want to be a dictator for one day.
Would you rather have 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president?
Trump.
As a dictator?
Maybe.
Sometimes in life, we all need a good paddling from the principal to set our life on the right track. And this country does need a little bit of that. We need a little paddling.
It's nice to have a strong man running your country.
Would you rather have 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president?
Donald Trump all the way.
Even as a dictator?
Yes, yes.
Trump as a dictator.
I think I'm choosing Donald Trump as a dictator.
Yeah, I'm going dictator Trump for sure.
I'd rather have Donald Trump as a dictator.
The other day, Donald Trump said on his first day he's going to be a dictator for a day.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Would you rather have Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 years or re-elect Joe Biden for 4 years?
I would rather have Donald Trump. I'd like to see the repeal the Roosevelt law so that he can be a president for a lot more than 4 years. But this country needs a dictator. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
This is part of why we care, right? Because putting him in court tests this whole idea. What is appealing about a dictator? What is a dictatorship, right? What is appealing about a strongman leader replacing democracy? Having somebody who just stays in power indefinitely and has unchecked total authority to do whatever he wants. What is appealing about that? Not just why would you offer to be that? You can see the appeal to a person who wants to be that kind of person. But why would you want that in your country? The most appealing thing about a strongman leader, right, is that he'd be able to get stuff done. He'd be unconstrained. Couldn't be stopped, you know? I alone can fix it. Through enforcing, loyalty to him or death, by locking up his enemies, by breaking all the rules, government schmoverment, Congress schmungress. The courts, yeah, right. Them and what army? That's what he is promising. That's the appeal. And so what this writer, this journalist, this extraordinary, unique woman did was give us pretty much the first test of that prospect that has come all the way to fruition. This has run to the end now. This is the test. Is he the strong man that he claims to be? And that his followers believe him to be, and that they so want, instead of this messy democracy where sometimes other people get their way, is he that? Or is he a citizen, an American, who lives in a democracy, which has courts and laws? A would-be strongman says he is immune from the legal system. He is unconstrained by any institution and by anything in our government. E. Jean Carroll is the one who called that question. E. Jean Carroll's civil case says, I'm not a strong man, and neither are you. None of us are. No one can be in America, because this is a democracy, and the law, in a case like this, she says, the law protects me, even from you. And so I will call the question. I will call on the law, the court system, to show that, to prove that the strongman model does not work here, however much people might want it. This is not Europe between the wars. This is America. And that's the second reason that we care, right? That's the second reason this case, this huge $83 million judgment, resonates so much with us. Because she did this in a civil case, human to human, eyeball to eyeball. She did this in her own name and in her own personal defense. She called upon the law to protect her, a named person who was willing to put her name to the allegations and to show up in court and say it. So much of the calculus in our country right now, so much of the calculus, frankly, in the world right now, so much of the calculus about how to contend with Trump is, oh, how mad is he going to be? How crazy will his supporters go? In historian Tim Snyder's seminal book on tyranny, this anticipation of the backlash, this worry about how upset Trump and his supporters might get, this is a phenomenon that Snyder describes as obeying in advance, as in do not obey in advance. Do not give the tyrant or the would-be tyrant what they want because you fear what they might do otherwise. Put more bluntly, the message is, to Snyder's lights, the lesson from the 20th century is, stand up, say no, have guts. Be the one. How many of us would have the guts of E. Jean Carroll at age 80 to do what she did? To call his question, to test it, to make us decide it as a country, to render this would-be strongman just a man.